Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony CA hosting. Welcome to this special edition of Focus on Liberia. Very special because of a special topic and special personalities here as guests. You might see a familiar face, Vandela Patrick's. Welcome. Share the show with your contact, share with your friends. If you're a member of any chat room, share it. And if you want to know the reason, it's because of this topic. You might not be familiar with it, but it haunts our society. It affects us all as members of the human community. Our topic, extortion and organized crimes as the new acts of terrorism. Maybe that's the one you can relate to. But the experts are telling us extortion and organized crimes can be an equivalence or terrorism, the one you don't like to hear about because you've seen it. You've seen images of it. You've seen videos of it. You've seen people engaged in that. And you also seen how it has affected countries and people. Welcome. This is Focus on Liberia. And as always, we are broadcasting from our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Our goal has always been simple: to educate, to elevate, and promote all things. This time, not only Liberia, but Mama Africa and the world. So let's get started. You already know our topic. To discuss the topic, we have invited three distinct fellows of the Resilience Fellowship, of which our own brother and friend, Mr. Vandalark Patrick, having to be a member. Mr. Patrick, welcome to Focus on Liberia. It's good to have you.
Well, thank you, Anthony C. and the listening public. Let me say thank you again once more. It's been a long time. We've been out of social media. We've been working on other projects, both in Africa, the United States, and Liberia, to be specific. It's very good to be here. And I should mention two of my colleagues from Indonesia and Malawi. They will be joining us. They will be giving their own introduction. But just to give you an overview of the Resilient Fellowship, it was designed by Global Initiative, one of the international organizations that is fighting to make our country a wholesome society. And they are collaborating with the United Nations, human rights bureaus, and other UN agencies, trying to make sure that the war is holistic, that the war is peaceful. So one of the way the global initiative has decided to get countries around the world and people expertise to brainstorm about how they can address some of the challenging problems in the world is through these kinds of programs. Like we were the 2021 Resilient Fellows out of 450 applications around the world. There were 10 persons that were elected or selected for this initiative, and I'm very proud to be working with distinguished personalities from Malawi and Indonesia, Nukila, and Ponelo. We've been working on different projects, but in the course of the discussion, we'll give you uh, the document that we are working on now, the recommendations we want to make to the international community, drawing the attention of state parties or state governments to invest into certain programs to do away with organized crime. So again, my name is Vandalark Patrice. I hail from Liberia, and I'm one of the fellows for the 2021 Resilient Fellowship. So I would like
Thank you.
to respectfully turn the platform to you, and maybe for my colleagues to make their own introduction.
Thank you so very much and so kindly, Mr. Patrick, for providing that little oversight there. Ponelo, I would like you to come back in. I want to take the time to introduce you, so please come back on the video. I would appreciate that. Uh, so we have today as guests three distinguished fellows of the Resilient Fellowship selected for 2021. And we have Ponilo Kalonga, who is a distinguished fellow for 2021. And she is our guest here today in this broadcast. Let's read something about her. And by the way, she is from Zomba, Malawi. Uh, Ponelo Kalonga is a women's rights activist working against sexual exploitation and gender based inequalities. She is the founder and executive director of Save the Village Foundation, an organization that supports young women in Malawi. Her initiatives support vulnerable women against sexual exploitation and trafficking through education, mentoring, and leadership development. During the fellowship, Ponelo will work for the adoption and implementation of legislations that regulate sexual exploitation linked with extortion. So that is our guest, Ponelo. At this time, we want to say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be on such a platform where we'll be able to share our work and our experiences during the Resilience Fund Fellowship. So, I've been introduced, my name is Ponelo Kalonga, and I am the founder of Silva Village Youth Foundation in Malawi, an organization that supports girls and young women, but during this Resilience Fund Fellowship, I'm working to break the silence among young people in Malawi, especially those who are in pursuit of work or businesses or other opportunities. So I am working to break the silence among these target groups so that they can be able to speak out whenever they face any type of extortion in their communities. So we've been having campaigns, which I hope we'll be able to talk about in the course of the program, and so much other activities that are, encouraging these victims of extortion to not suffer in silence, but rather come out and speak about it and get the help they need. And also in this project, we are working with the law enforcement officers, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and also the community as a whole, just to for the success of this project. And we have said, we're working with Nukila and Vandalark as well in so many activities, including now that we're live together to talk about this program, extortion and organized crime. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Also joining us here as guest is Nukila Evanty. She is also a distinguished fellow of the Resilient Fellowship 2021. A little about her here quickly, folks. Uh, Nukila has a background in international law and is the country director of rights and founder of the Women's Working Group in Indonesia. She has been advocating for marginalized communities, indigenous peoples' rights, and social environmental justice for over 15 years. In 2020, she founded the Civil Society Coalition Against Corona, an observatory of government policies and their implementation during the pandemic, including a legal complaint desk for vulnerable communities. Her work in the fellowship will focus on communities affected by the palm oil industry in Sumatra, Indonesia. So again, we want to welcome our guests to the program. It's good to have you.
Thank you, C. Thank you, C. It's
All
good to
right.
have you too, and all
Okay.
the
So
fellows here.
yeah. So are you joining us from Indonesia or are you here in the United States?
Yeah, I'm in Riau, Sumatra
Okay.
Sumatra Islands, Indonesia.
Okay. So
So
how are things in Indonesia
far
and what
away
is the time
from
there right
the
now?
capital. Pardon?
I was asking you if you are in Indonesia, what is the time there and how are things over there?
The weather now is the time is now is around 8:10 a.m. in the morning.
Oh,
So
okay.
you know.
All right. Again, welcome. We are happy to have you, to share your understanding on the topic for which we have invited you. Thank you so very much. Also with us is one of our own talking about the Liberian community, Mr. Vandela Patricks. Mr. Patricks is the 2021 Resilient Fellow. Mr. Patricks, we want to welcome you to the program. And those who don't know Patrick that much in this particular capacity to speak, let me say to you, Mr. Patricks is Vandela Patrick is the founder and executive director of Campaigners for Change International, a nonprofit organization that speaks against racial injustice, fight against corruption, and promotes youth development programs in Liberia. He has worked over 15 years advocating for social and environmental justice in his country. In 2020, Vandela was accepted into the Edward S. Mason Fellowship Program at the Harvard Kennedy School for a master's degree in public administration. His goal in the fellowship is to address extortion in his community as a systemic criminal culture that involves public officials and the youth by building a network of change makers, advocating relevant policies, and raising awareness among stakeholders. Mr. Patrick, Vandela, in Liberia, we say, comrade, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony C. I really appreciate the opportunity given us to share our expertise on what we are working to make our world a wholesome society. Besides the professional ethics, but this is one way that we can find solution to problems that are affecting our country, affecting the young people who have been perpetually used as instruments to terrorize people based on several factors, of which we'll be discussing during the course of this show. And again, I'm very happy to have my distinguished colleagues from Malawi and Indonesia to share our perspective on how we can find solution collectively in our different society to make sure that the issue of organized crime and extortion does not transition into an act of terrorism within our communities, which will speak negatively of the kind of developments our governments are making. So again, I want to say thank you for granting us this platform to share our perspective on this grave topic. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And folks, for those of us who don't know a little or much about this Resilient Fellowship, in October of 2019, the Global Initiative Against Transitional Organized Crimes announced the launch of the Resilient Fellowship, a new initiative of the Resilience Fund to build a platform for cross-sectoral, global, and interdisciplinary collaboration to counter the effect of organized crimes. Focusing on the 2021 Resilient Fellowship theme, extortion and organized crime, each of the 10 fellows will be supported in their work with communities, being encouraged to pursue collaborative projects, and provided with mentorship, training opportunities, and different international platforms for the dissemination of their work. So that is a little about what they are involved with. Again, to set the basis for this discussion, let me remind you our segment. This is what our guests are going to do for us. They will define for us extortion in the context in which we have invited them to speak. They will tell us about the kinds. We want to know the danger. We want to know the impact. And also for segment number 2, we'll look at organized crimes. What does it mean by organized crime? What do they mean by organized crime? Or what is organized crime? So they will define that. They will give us examples of organized crimes. They will give us the causes and the threat of organized crime to the global community. And we'll talk about extortion and organized crime. They are saying these things are more like some forms of terrorism. How? The experts are here. For me, I will just ask the question and they will tell us. And finally, all these problems must have solution. They are in the field. I want solution from each of them on extortion, on organized crime, and any other recommendation they may have. So the stage is set for you to follow us in the discussion. You know what's coming your way. They will give their expert opinion on this thing. So let's get started. Um, in our community, we say, ladies and gentlemen. So we will start with Nukila here quickly. Nukila, for our first segment here, we're talking about extortion. What is extortion? What are some kinds, if you may, of extortion? What is the danger that extortion poses to the community and the human person? And what are the impacts? Please share with us what you want to share.
Yeah, thank you. See,
Mhm.
extortion is like a threat,
Mhm.
intimidation um uh, to the society,
Mhm.
particularly to the most, in my context, to the most marginalized society, those who have less power,
Mhm.
and it's conducted by those who have the power, they have the access, they want the power, they do that towards, in the context of me, is towards, grabbing the land, and then taking someone property with, with intimidation. And these people who are being threatened, they don't know what to do. They don't know, to complain to other authority. So there is no,
Mhm.
one is the threat, intimidations, like with using the power, by the authority or those who have the power, or and then they also targeted to the most marginalized in my context, the most marginalized, which is indigenous people in my context. And
Mhm.
then there is no mechanism, even though there is uh, a legal basis, the law, in the
Right.
the law, but they don't know how to, use the law. And there is a kind of like a omission by those who, know, they assume to know this situation, but they don't know,
Right.
they don't do anything to do that.
They don't know
That's
anything.
extortion kind. Yeah. And it's most, is targeted to I want to highlight about the marginalized, because the marginalized, the minority, the indigenous people, because they don't have the knowledge, the skills,
Mhm.
to do that,
Right.
because it's like a prolong, long, without any
So,
intervention,
in essence, you are
to do that.
saying, yeah. So, in essence, you are saying the most vulnerable in the communities, or as
Yeah,
are always the victims of extortion, and that
right,
those in power always try to extort from them in different forms that they don't even understand, and that they don't even know what the
right.
remedy or their courses of actions are in getting resolution to the extortion that is taking place. Uh, so I also want
Right.
to know from you, do they even have an understanding that there's being extorted by the powerful? Do they usually know or not know, or is it that they know and then they don't just want to take action?
Yeah, because if they want to take action, being criminalized,
Mhm.
they will the one who been, will be excused or charged for breaking the law. Or
Mhm.
if they protest it, they protest to the, like, a police, to the, yeah, to the government, local government. They are the one who will be, uh, sentenced to, will be implied to penalties. So they're afraid to do that. Also, they're afraid to do that because there is a, like a goonsman, like those who been hired
Mhm.
to track the people. So they are really afraid if they comply to the authority or to the police, they will be the one who will be, will be the target. Uh,
All right.
so there is a worry to
Mhm.
complain, to tell about the story, and then also they they're powerless. They don't know how to voice
All right.
their complaint.
All
Because
right.
afraid of the goonsman, afraid of the police as well. That's
Uh-huh.
the issue
Thank
regarding the
you.
extortion.
Thank you. Thank you. And Comrade Patrick, we just heard from your colleague there, Nukila, talking about extortion is when the powerful, though in places of power, use their power, use their position to take advantage of those who are vulnerable, the less powerful in society. And sometimes, they're not knowing what's happening. They not know the remedy whatsoever. I asked her the question whether completely that these people, is it that they don't know that there's extortion taking place either by the government or some powerful people, or they just don't know the way out of it? What is it?
So, thank you, Anthony. The fact that extortion and the victims
Mhm.
usually are voiceless people in society and sometimes professional individuals. But there's this human subconscious mind where people are unwilling to take action and
Mhm.
people are afraid to speak out for fear of intimidation,
Mhm.
judicial harassment, perhaps undergoing unspecified consequences of
Mhm.
their actions. So it comes in different forms. And she talks about how land is taken from people.
Mhm.
People are being extorted in our countries, in our communities, without knowing that they are being extorted. You have a good land and somebody who is a legal luminary, and this person is in top position of government. This person encroach on your land and use the power to take what belongs to you. They are trying to extort you. And most of the time in our respective communities, we see people say, oh, I'm just leaving my own. Because it's not that they are not aware that their rights have been violated. We have to make this very clear.
Okay.
Extortion is a form of human rights abuse. And those rights are abused, especially in areas where people do not have somebody to champion their cause. They don't have people to speak for them. The issue of the culture of silence. When you speak out, you are apprehended by the police, especially when public officials decide to go into your community and take away your properties. That's one aspect. There is another aspect. You see the criminal gangs, like in the city center in other countries. I have gone to South Africa, and I know during certain part of the night you don't travel. So these guys will come during the hours of the night in other countries. They take different forms. Some of them have knives, they have guns. They tell you, everybody get off the car and give everything that you have, put your hand up, and then they take everything that belongs to you. And then when you leave, you might see them, you might recognize them, but you are afraid to speak out. Because when you speak out, you are afraid that they will come after you, or they will go after your family member, or maybe they will come the next day. In other forms, they go to your shop and demand you have to give them money. Other than that, they will come in the night and arm rob you. So it takes different forms. It can come in the form of armed robbery. It can come physical threats. They take your phone and they are very crafty. And at times, it involves law enforcement officers that connect with these terrorist groups. I call them terrorist groups because some of them are armed robbers. Some of them, they are not armed robbers. They go on reconnaissance. They sit with you in your shop. And during the night hour, they text two of their colleagues that the guy is ready. He just makes some sale. And they move on you. They take what belongs to you. You can't say anything. They have the gun to your ear. You have to give out. You are afraid to talk.
Mm.
There are people who are deployed at the various banking sectors. They know who goes in, how much you have withdrawn, maybe 20,000, 10,000 United States dollars. As soon as you are leaving the bank, they call one of their friends, and you don't know who is stealing you. They are driving behind you. As soon as you get away from certain public gathering, they go right after you and they track you down and they ask you, you have to give there or you'll lose your life. So at the end of the day, when these people are victims of circumstances, it puts them into a situation where they are afraid to speak out. Because once the government is not coming to protect them, they will not be very much enthusiastic to speak out about the situation they have gone through. Again, on the other hand, if they attempt to speak out and people come after them, it serves as a deterrent for other people who might want to be in the know or want to come publicly to say, look, I have been harassed. There's this issue of extortion in my community and call on national government to intervene. They will also be afraid because they see that the first person who attempted to speak out, they were harassed or intimidated or maybe taken to court or whatever. So at the end of the day, it builds the sentiment for the culture of silence to continue to build up. So as we are working in this, is to inspire confidence among the victims in the various communities to say the more you keep silence on organized crime on an extortion, the more the situation will get out of hand. At the end of the day, you will never go to bed free. You will never live a good life because people will come after you because these guys, they are very crafty. They live in the community and they keep surveilling on you on a daily basis. So our purpose in this fellowship that we talk about is trying to inspire people to speak out, calling on stakeholders, the Liberal National Police, like in my country, the DEA, the national legislature, like in the course of this discussion, we'll tell you how far we have gone with our engagement processes, collaborating with other organizations that are working against organized crime and extortion, is to see how best we can have a united force, united voice. Like in Liberia, we say vigilante group. It's a way of mobilizing the community to stand up in defense of what is happening in their community. Since the government cannot intervene, they need to organize vigilante group. And the more they are robust in this process, it will draw the attention of national government to say you have to provide security for the people, you have to protect the victims, and you go after the perpetrators and ensure if they are apprehended, they should be prosecuted in accordance with the due process. And so basically, these forms of organized crimes and extortions, it takes different, it's deadly. And if the government does not address it at the very beginning, it degenerates into a criminal gang, a criminal empire, where you will not be able to travel in certain community. But in
Okay.
the course of the discussion, I will tell you, I will elaborate more about what is happening in my country. You are quite aware about what happened in Douala today. The
Thank you.
criminal gangs, they came out and they challenged the police. So this is how powerful they are. They built up the network over the years. They have become very powerful. And at times, they take all arms and resist the police because they feel that the police is going into their territory. So they have to fight back. So
Thank
this
you.
is why we're saying that this is it's unnecessary and it is about time to draw national government attention to address this issue. But we'll give you the causes about organized crime and extortion as we go through the course of this discussion.
Thank you so very much. And that will bring me to Ponelo. Ponelo, let's talk about the impact. I know Patrick mentioned some of the impacts, but I want you to go a little further. What are the impacts of extortion? How does extortion being carried on impacts the community, impacts the people? How does it affect harmony in the society? How? You are muted. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Okay, thank you so much. So, like I said, that I'll mostly use the audio for like my faster communication. So you've asked me about the impact of
Yeah,
extortion.
if you are on video, it'll be fine. We're hearing you clear. So can you come back on video, please? It's working well.
Okay. What I mean is, yeah. So what I mean is, when I'm talking here on the video, my internet usually goes slower. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, but I will try.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you have asked me about the impact of extortion. I will talk about in my context and in the context of my project and my also my experiences. So usually, extortion has a higher impact, especially I would say physically, emotionally, on these targeted groups. So usually when these people, in my project, like I told you, I'm working with the youth, the young people who are in pursuing employment or any other services. So when these people face the type of extortion and due to the culture of silence that's existing in our communities, just like my colleague Vandalark has put it, they fail to come out. I would say mainly it's because of, let's say, in my case in Malawi, we are talking of the corrupt law enforcement officers who are also in the same group with the criminals. So we have that culture that we know that even if we appeal, even if we raise our voices for what we are facing, we cannot get the help that we need. We cannot get the support that we need. So this extortion and organized crime, it has brought that culture of silence. It has brought people so low, especially the young people I'm working with. They've been brought down so low that they are not able to stand up and speak for themselves because they cannot find that support that they need from the even if they don't even know the proper channels to follow for them to get that support. So the very big impact that extortion and organized crime has had on the community is to press people down, is to oppress them and just put their voice low that they cannot just stand up and or making them believe that there is nowhere they can go, especially that they're dealing with people in higher authorities. So it is what we are focusing on, and this is what we are trying to address right now, that these people should not keep silent. They should know that they can follow proper channels where they can stand up and report rather than just sit down and being hurt physically, emotionally, and also it will even affect their future development because they cannot go on, or even if they have been oppressed or face extortion in any kind of way, in the near future they will not be able to stand up for themselves for anything else. So we are trying to address this, that the impact of the culture of silence that extortion has brought needs to be put down. These people need to stand up and speak. They need to know that we are here to support them. They can follow proper channels. It doesn't matter who is doing what. Even if we're talking of the corrupt law enforcement officers, we are talking of proper injustice or proper improper support from the government. That is why we are here, because we know that we can be able to work that out, work that around, collaborate with other stakeholders who are also addressing same issues so that we can help these victims, support them, that they can just have their confidence back and talk about these issues uh, for their also future development. Thank you.
So Ponelo, let's talk about the causes of extortion and organized crimes. What is making people, to get involved into extortion and organized crimes? What are the reasons? What are the causes? Why are they doing it? What is pushing them to get involved in this kind of behavior, that are not good for the community at all?
That's a very good question, Anthony. And from my very own experience, it's
Mhm.
the from my very own experience and from my project, it's poverty. So the
Okay.
people I'm working with, people who are coming from a very poor background. So, like I told you, in this project we are addressing um, uh, young people, youth who are looking for employment, who are in employment, who are looking for business opportunities or any other opportunities. But these people, they are not any other people. They are people who are lacking. They are people who are so needy, who are just, they're just, maybe that job is just their entire life. It's the only thing they have. That business they're looking for, it's the only thing they have, or the only thing if they could get, that's like the only thing. So whenever these people they're facing extortion, let's say someone is looking, and in my case as a women rights activist also, I'm looking at women who are looking for employment or are in employment. So let's say a woman has been employed and then they're being told to have sex with people in authorities, or also some of them in the cases I've come across is that they're being asked to pay. So if they get paid their monthly salaries, they are being asked to pay the people in higher authorities for them to stay on the job. So if they don't do that, they're going to lose their job. And then
Right.
what next? They are going to go back to their poverty life. And then what next? They just give in. They just
Thank
give
you.
in because they want to. That's the only thing they have. And
Thank you.
same applies to those who are in business, looking for business opportunities and whatsoever opportunities. And this is why we are also working. Like I'm also working with the labor department. We're also looking at the labor laws. What does the labor laws say? Because these people, like we said, they don't know what to do, but
Okay.
they can do everything to keep their
Mhm.
job. So I would say it's the poverty making people to fall into extortion in my context. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I think those are two key things I got from you: poverty and unemployment are some of the reasons pushing people. Let's come to you, Nukila. Let's hear from you on the causes of extortion and organized crimes. What are the things that are pushing people into doing these things, right? Let me hear from you based on your experiences from Indonesia or in Indonesia. What are some of the things other than poverty and unemployment that Ponelo talk about? Let me hear from you. What's causing those things?
Yeah. My taking your and question is the I think the how do you call that one, the poverty,
Mhm.
the is always poverty, lack of education of the people that and then lack of knowledge, lack of skills, then lack of implementation of the law
Mhm.
by the police and also by the government.
Mhm.
Continuously this discussion will be in the society because this the I think the most cause of the problems that made torsion still exists in everywhere, in every country, and also this impacts also to to the well-being of the people, and then for the children as well, the future of the children, the future of uh, the next generation. Because of this extortion is very impact to the children, our future,
All right.
and then if they let this happen, what would be the nation if we let this happen? This is this should be the lesson for the all everybody that this happening. We need to do something action regarding
All right. Yeah. Thank
regarding
you.
the extortion.
Thank, Yeah, thank you so very much. Nukila. Nukila is a 2021 Resilient Fellow. She is from Indonesia. Comrade Patrick, you listen to your colleague. She talked about, she agreed with Ponelo that, poverty, unemployment, the lack of, income generating skills for mainly young people, lack of implementation of the law, lack of, opportunity. Give us your own perspective from the Liberian side, because your emphasis is in Liberia. What is causing people to get into, extortion and organized crimes in Liberia? In addition to what your colleagues said, even if you agree with them.
So, first and foremost, I want to agree with them. Poverty is a contributing factor. And I think and that is undisputed. It's a fact. Back in Liberia, as you are aware, we experienced 14 years civil unrest. And one of the contributing factors for the bloody civil war in our country was corruption and the culture of impunity. It necessitated or it helped to speed up the process for people to just go on a rampage, take arms, and come in rebellion against the status quo. So there was no other alternative. After the war, right now in Liberia, we have some 35,000 ex-combatants. Most of them have not been fully reintegrated in society. The issue of corruption, where programs that are supposed to improve the lives of these vulnerable young people. It is said in Africa that the adult mind, I mean, an adult mind is the devil's workshop. When you have groups of people where they are not working, she talks about unemployment. When people are not on, I mean, when people are unemployed, it sets the basis for people to manipulate them easily and make them to understand this is a way of life. And the moment they gravitate towards that and begin to see it as a form of employment, obviously, they make it to be a habit. They take it as a form of employment. They will do everything humanly possible to protect where they are getting their source of income. Mind you, those who are involved in extortion and organized crimes, they have wives, they have children. How do you expect them to feed their families? They are not working. So they can do everything. And we have to state this clearly. Organized crime and extortion has different phases. It can be human trafficking. It can be armed robbery. And so anything that is intended to cajole or mislead people and place you into a position where you can easily be threatened and take away certain resources from you, it contributes towards the issue of organized crime. Like in Liberia, for example, it's the government equitably distributing state resources. Why is it that the unemployment rate is high in the country? The more the people are unemployed, where do you expect them to live and survive? I'm sitting here, the war is behind. If you keep pushing people to the extent where they can no longer go behind, they will have to fight back. You see on the streets of Monrovia, some parts of Monrovia, people don't travel at night. They will either take your phone from you, they snatch your bag. My sister was a victim in 2011. She had gone to Access Bank, withdrew money, $4,500. She used to sell right opposite the Don Bosco Technical High School, right to Jokbata Market in Cinco. While she was waiting, stopping, the vehicle, she just came from the bank, not knowing the guys were taking her. She had a $4,500 US in the plastic bag. And the guy just came and snatched the entire plastic, and that was the end. People are victims on these kind of things because you will not see them. So one of the things these people are getting involved in these kind of activities because there are no employment opportunities.
And Comrade Patrick, if I may, just to add
You see
that,
people.
Comrade Patrick, hold on, if I may here, your colleague Nukila talked about the lack of implementation of the law is a contributing factor. I'd agree. But in the scenario that you are stating, you said this is like a source of income for the individuals because direct employment is not available to them. They have wife and children. That's the option they have. How enforcing the law going to stop this behavior,
So
which actually is their source of income?
Before you enforce the law, you have to take into consideration. If you stop them, where do you? A good law enforcer will have to study. If I stop the ghettos, I take all the arm from them. How do I expect them to survive? You see, the weapons, you might take the physical weapons from their hands. But over 2-3 months, if they are not employed, they're going to create the crime. It develops from the mind. The next thing, the weapon will land into their hands. So before you can even think about enforcing the law, You should be thinking about the responsibility of the government. You cannot, at the end of the day, you will arrest everybody, you jail them. You saw the other day they went to King Gray. They collected all of these guys who were involved in organized crime, the Zogo, I would call them, in Liberia. They brought them to the Liberia National Police Headquarters and jailed them. Government said that was a solution. And guess what happened? After 2, 3 days, it was a liability on the government. They put them out. They were all on the street. So the government did not plan. Before you arrest people to enforce the law, the government must put strategy into place. How are we going? You see, prevention is very key. It's not just about enforcement of the law. You must take into consideration, Mr. CA, what is the best way we can stop organized crime? Of course, law
So,
enforcement
Comrade
is key.
Patrick, in the event, right, not every government, even, government that are standing financially strong, they also have this kind of deficiency, all right? So it may not only be the fact that there is no sufficient funding, to enforcing the law. And if the government is not adequate or is not enough, where can the community, where can society go in finding additional solution or answers? So let's say the government is doing its best, it's not enough. Where do we go? What options do we
So,
have?
and this is where now I want to buy the idea of Ponelo, community involvement. Everything that you do, you see, the problem of organized crime and extortion, trying to deal with organized crime and extortion, it is not just about government thing. And this is a concept most people have developed over the years. It is a government responsibility to enforce the law. And as such, they are not part of it. No. It is an inclusive endeavor. If you live in a community where you see criminals, the best you can do, if you look in our communities, like in Liberia, for example, you have heard about vigilante group. The community mobilize, they keep watch night to protect the other people who do not have means to protect themselves. So it must involve the collective effort of the community to come together to protect each other. I'm not saying arresting people, but once they create awareness that we are around, there's no need for you to come. You come here, you'll be met with stiff resistance. The criminals will not come around.
All
The
right.
second thing is they got to carry on civic education. You see, there are times in some of our communities, it's not that people are not willing to help, but they don't just want to do that. You see a handsome or brilliant young man, brilliant young girl coming up in the community. They lack everything. It is the responsibility of the community. If you see that if I invest in this child, maybe give them an opportunity to go to school. So they cannot be corrupted by the bad guys within the community. You'll be preventing that child from committing crime and from extorting people, or perhaps creating an unwholesome activity in the community that will serve as a threat to everybody. So prevention, it comes in different forms. We encourage civil society organizations, we encourage community-based institutions to speak out on these things. And
All right.
even some of the programs that they implement in their community, it should be targeted
All right.
towards rehabilitating these people. So one of our strategies is to collaborate with people who are already working to rehabilitate some of these people with, we call them Zoko, like in my country, Liberia. We call them Zoko. How can we help to resuscitate these people, to rehabilitate them, give
Thank you.
them some form of support? If you look today in Liberia, we see most of these young people, some of them they are brilliant, some of them they are good, but they were being corrupted by the system, either through taking drugs. Today they are being fully indoctrinated into the idea of organized crime and extortion. Some of
Thank you.
them have become hardcore armed robbers. Let me just draw you an example to what happened today in
Quickly,
Douala.
please. Quickly,
In
please.
Douala today, right? It is in this 21st century that criminals will set roadblock because the police have gone there to raid them during the hours of the night. They got angry. They came back on the street in their normals to put roadblock. It tells you how lawless, our society has gone. And it's not just about enforcement of the law. What can we do to rehabilitate, to
Thank
get
you,
these guys
Patrick.
first and foremost in order to prevent these kind of activities from going on in the community? So it's
Thank
not
you.
just about law enforcement, The government must see how they can really address the core problems.
Thank you so very much. Folks in cyberspace, you are watching Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony here hosting. We have with us three distinguished fellow of the Reliance Fellowship here talking about extortion and organized crime, new art of terrorism. Let me come to you, Ponelo. You know, you listening to Patrick's. You now, the Resilient Fellows, my understanding is that your work is being sponsored, you're being selected, and it's being funded by the Global Initiative Fund. How is the fund uh, pushing you or helping you for you to go into the community to help find solution to these problems that we are talking about? How is it done? You are muted, please. Mute yourself. You are okay. All right, thank
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Anthony. So these funds have been a very, I would say, a push, because without it, I think we wouldn't have gone far. In my case, especially, we have had programs or initiatives like civic education to alert people on issues of extortion, and what it involves and what they're supposed to do uh, if the victims face extortion, where they're supposed to go, or any other proper channels they're supposed to follow. So the funds have contributed to all these activities, civic educating the people about extortion, also guiding them to how to report and the like. And also, we have had crying out programs, victim crying out programs. That's some of the activities I've been conducting, where we bring together the victims of extortion, and then they voice out in radio stations, TV stations. So we are talking of buying airtime in TV stations, radio stations. Apart from that, we've had conducting awareness campaigns. So we've been traveling throughout the Zomba, where I am, throughout all the implementation zones. So going from places to places, alerting people, about extortion, telling them to speak out, breaking the silence. So we've also been meeting with stakeholders and journalists, the law enforcement officers. All these the funds have contributed to all this, to reaching out to the victims, meeting the authorities, whosoever. So that's how we've been using the funds. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so very much. And Nukila, so still talking about the funds, she explained brilliantly how it's being used. Do you directly impact or empower the victims in a way that which have pushed them into, or becoming victims in the first place, they don't fall prey to that anymore, because sometimes it's a lack of opportunity, like you said, causing the young people or just anybody to get involved into. So when the fund is provided, like for somebody who wouldn't have a job, and so now maybe doing draws or join again because there was no opportunity for a job, do you create job opportunity? Do you use the money to provide skill training so that they can have skills for them to do something with their hands? How do you go about impacting them to divert them from what is not good to something positive?
Yeah, thank you. The way that if I am taking your question correctly, I I'm doing some like three activities. How to
Mhm.
regarding extortion issues,
Mhm.
but awareness to the community, right, about their right, human rights, the situation about extortion, to remind them about the extortion happening to their community. Also engaging with the local NGOs, So they and media, the role of media is very important to engage with this situation. They will cover, right, to the word about the situation of the extortion. And second, how to advocate the local government. We need to doesn't have the education. Maybe the violation law or something like that. So this is the way how to engage also to report local government about situation of the community. And also this is the power of coalition like this. I among with the Patrick with Ponelo. So this need more coalition across the region, across the border. Because
Yeah.
we deal with the same issues. We deal with the
All right.
humanitarian, human rights issues. We are the same. We are
Right.
human. Human right is about human issue. That's
Right.
everyone issue. So this is the way we are doing right now
Yeah.
about
Nukila,
this fellowship.
I understand you are a lawyer. The funds that have been provided, if any, been provided through the Global Initiative Fund, do you use it to provide, like, for example, legal services to some victims, uh, representing them in codes or in some, form of things that really need a legal representation? Do you do that?
Me?
Nukila, are
Yeah,
you there?
for the yes. We are doing, like how do you call the one local government, including the legal enforcers. This is very important is because this aware about this issue as well. So yes, the
All
legal
right.
enforcer,
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I
law
got your answer.
and
You said,
law.
all right. Thank you. I think I heard you say yes, that, there's some form of legal representation that has been provided to victims when needed as well. Thank you. Comrade Patrick, let's come to the final segment here. Let's look at, because according to you, extortion and organized crimes are more like the new acts of terrorism. Many people can relate or have an idea of what terrorism is. And you are saying extortion, organized crime, can be as equally bad, devastating for any group of people, any country for that matter, as terrorism. The question is how terrorism is a bad thing. How extortion and organized crime be equated to terrorism?
So, Anthony, perhaps people are not taking this in the context.
Mhm,
Let me just take you back to Boko Haram in Nigeria.
mhm,
Uh, I have listened many times to Al Jazeera and listened to people on the BBC, their commander and people who are involved in that wicked activities in
mhm,
Nigeria. It started from young people complaining that the government has neglected them. They have no form of employment, no education, no means of survival. Medical services were not available. And they see few groups of people milking the state resources. They live good life. They send their families abroad. They get sick. They fly abroad. So the guys took up arms. They took up arms to fight and go after other people who they believe are looting state resources. If they can have, so they have to use force to terrorize these people so they can have it. The government overlooked it over a period of time. Today, it has become an international problem in our country. Like I said, if you travel to other countries, let me give you specific example about South Africa because I went there and I visited it. Cape Town to be specific. They travel at night, they have guns, and police dare not to come around. You know their headquarters and everything. In fact, police sit over there and negotiate. police no longer carry force. How did they arrive at that point? Because government has neglected its responsibility to provide the basic social services, education, and employment opportunity that will make these people to work, earn money, and cater to their family. When you come to Liberia, a country like Liberia, we have 14 years civil unrest, Anthony. Rehabilitation was not properly done. You have about 35,000 ex-combatants that are now parading the various corridors of the Republic of Liberia. Unemployment currently in the country stands at 76 to 80%. Most of this, and most of the people who are unemployed in this population are young people. If you look at Central Monrovia today, the armed robbery statistics has proven most of the people who are being arrested based on armed robbery or the issue of Zogos, they are between the ages of 21 to 36 or 40 years. Certain parts of Monrovia, people don't go there. Central Monrovia, I mean, I know some of you are listening, you know, that I'm not trying to be place a dark cloud over your community. Central Monrovia, like and Cinco, I'm talking about Red to Vamuma. There's a place in Red Light they call Delta Bow. There's a place to Point 4 they call Zimbabwe around the Douala area. These guys have grown over the period of time. Some of them have become hardcore criminal gangs. Interestingly, the police have complained they have not been paid. So the police connive with these criminal gangs. And the other day, I was talking to one of the police officers through one of our meetings, you know, and the workshop that we conducted. And I was recommending that if I was a police director in the Republic of Liberia, no police officer will carry cell phone to work. You will use the handset. Because it's possible that these people can give tip onto these guys while they are at night. Why is it that we have not been able to arrest these criminal gangs, these armed robbers? They will terrorize people at night. So, Anthony, if we don't work on issues like this, and this is a creeping wave of terrorism, you might be leaving from Cote d'Ivoire to come to Liberia, and this guy will just set ambush. You are coming with the car, they get on the road, and they put everybody on gunpoint. They tell the driver to get out, and everybody, they take the car and carry right back in Cote d'Ivoire and sell it. Whatever goods and material money, they're going to take it away. You want to go to Sierra Leone, if we don't address this thing right now, during the night hours, somebody will go and set an ambush because they are very capable of doing that. They will terrorize our people and take whatever they have, and you will not make it in life. The same thing with public officials. And people see this thing, it is the new wave of terrorism. And if we are not careful, we will discourage investors from coming in the country because people will go in the hotel and they will kill them. You saw the case about what happened in 2009 under Judy Bryant, the former U.S. general. The man was in a hotel. And this guy, I don't know how they managed to get into the hotel and executed that man into the hotel. The same thing happened on 10th Street. They killed somebody, a very wealthy guy on 10th Street. It made that particular business to go out of, the owner of the business to go out of business because nobody wants to sleep in a hotel where somebody was executed there before. Tourists are all over the place. Sooner or later, the government will be losing millions and millions of dollars because people will not be willing to travel to certain areas and lodge for fear that their life will be taken away.
All right.
So extortion, it is undisputed that it is a new form of terrorism. And we ask government officials and public officials to begin to address the core problem. Most of these young people are unemployed. How can the government create a situation to give them employment opportunities? Can we introduce the civic fund of education community services? Even if somebody is making $50 per month, it has the ability to discourage them from going on the street. Like what happened today in Douala, 3 persons were killed because of as a result of gun scuffle. These people should not have died today. If we have put our feet onto the ground and ensure that we provide them the basic social services that they need, so their minds will be shifted from taking drugs and taking arm and go and terrorize people at night. Like all my friends are saying, this is a common agenda. We need to encourage people to come out and speak out. If we
Thank
say
you.
we can't talk because of one or two reasons, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, maybe they will welcome you at the airport, and maybe they
Thank
will
you.
welcome you in your homes. And we
Thank
cannot
you.
live in a society where we live in fear. So I think it's a new world of terrorism. That's my conception.
Thank you so very much again, folks. You're watching Focus on Liberia. I'm Anthony here hosting. We have with us today distinguished fellows of the Resilient Fellowship, being sponsored by the Global Initiative Fund. Our topic of discussion today is extortion, organized crime, as the new acts of terrorism. We have with us Mr. Vandalark, a distinguished fellow. We also have with her Nukila Evanty. She is from Indonesia. She is a 2021 Distinguished Fellow. And we also have with us Ponelo Kalonga, who also happen to be a 2021 Distinguished Fellow of the Resilience, as well as our own man Vandalark. You have discussed the problem, you have discussed the subject so eloquently. We will need solution, but let's hear from our audience. They are commenting. Let's bring in some, feedback from them, how they are reacting to the discussion. Let's hear from Edwin Freeman. Freeman writes, extortion and bribery are also encouraged by the poor people themselves. It becomes a way of life, especially in the third world, underdeveloped countries, according to Edwin. Let's hear for Francis C. Wilson. Those in power turn a blind eye to the crime and allow the criminals to circumvent the law because often they have them bribed or bought off. She writes, yeah, from Emmanuel Jackson. So true. Industrial countries use extortions of the land from landowners and hastily created rent-seeking enemies that created homelessness and joblessness of vulnerable population. The case of Liberia is unique. That person writes, let's hear from Stanley. Stanley, the police themselves are involved with the crimes, according to Stanley. Like, yeah, from Edwin again, great discussion. This is my career of expertise. Edwin, reach out to us, send us a message, focus on Liberia, send us a message, we'll bring you in to talk about it, we'll find time. Masters of Science in Financial Fraud Investigation. We need you, we need you, we need you. Extortion and organized crimes are detrimental to every community, especially underdeveloped countries. Standards should be very, very basic here. The police inform those guys because they have their agents planted in the police, and the first place, the first person maybe who gave them if not the same police or the person, right? Let's hear from this writer. Standard is basic here. Those same former rebels who kill our people are parading the streets, and the government does nothing about. And these are the masterminders of the crimes. Standard is very basic, but let's hear from Florence now. How many complaints do we have in Liberia? Very good question there. Let's hear from Emmanuel Jackson. I think international support to these vulnerable nations facing extortion leading into terrorism must be prioritized to fight these crimes. That person, right? Let's hear from Jimmy Eastman, an ardent follower here, focus on Liberia. Jimmy writes, what makes these acts of terrorism as opposed to wanton crime? They seem more very random. Jimmy writes. Patrick, and let me start with you first of all. Ponelo, you're listening to our viewers commenting, they are agreeing with you. They also expressing their own frustration about the situation and the seriousness of it. Let's hear your reaction from what you just listened to from our viewers so far.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all who are watching as well as listening. I would say I would like to comment, especially on Edwin's comment. That was the first comment. He says the
Mhm.
poor people are also the contributing factor to extortion. The poor people themselves, and someone says even the police.
Mhm.
They're also in the criminal. They're also in the organizing crime. So I
Right.
would like to say that I think that's what I mentioned in the first place to say these people they it's like let's say a job, a business, it's the only thing they have. So that is why we are here to guiding them for them to follow proper channels of where they can go. It's not that because you're looking for a job or you if you can't leave that job, that's the only thing you have, then you have to face extortion and do nothing. Because
Mhm.
I myself I have a very good experience. I faced it. I met a victim of extortion in the workplace, and when I tried to guide them, they said, "You don't talk like that as if you're going to give me a job. You can't do nothing about my life. I have a family to take care of," just like Vandalark said. So
Mhm.
these people they need to be guided into proper channels. They shouldn't be victims of extortion because they want to remain on a job. No. So
Thank you.
these are the people we are trying to address. Talk of
Thank you.
the corrupt law enforcement officers. That is why we have also had a problem here. I think Vandalak will remember that we had a text to write, and then we came to find out that even the law enforcement officers they are corrupt. What can we do? So there is a need for them to merge with the communities and then maybe come up with a community policing that they can discuss, find ways to discuss now and again with the communities and with maybe other stakeholders on ways they can, follow to work together to end extortion. And also, I usually say that it's not all police officers who are corrupt. It's not all law enforcement officers who are corrupt. You will find some success stories, or in my case, I've been trying to research on extortion success stories of police officers who have been able to contribute successfully to such kind of issues. So those
Thank
are
you.
the people we are to look for and then work with them for the success of our project also. Thank you.
Thank you. And Comrade Patrick, in addition to what you have, to share as a response to the comments read, there's this one for you from Jimmy. Does the panel believe Liberia will descend into anarchy?
Well, I don't pray for that, but if things are not taken care of,
Mhm.
let me borrow the words of Ellie McGregor Law, the former
Mhm.
SRSG, in 2009. When she addressed the United Nations, she made it very clear that if the government of Liberia does not address the issue of unemployment, politicians might manipulate the minds of the unemployed youthful population, and the country could degenerate into chaos. She went further to say unemployment paves the way for organized crime and extortion. Government must invest in capacity building of the young people and create employment opportunity for them. These are not my words. These words were spoken since 2009. With respect to this question, I can certainly tell you that the issue of organized crime, every sector in Monrovia, to be specific, you have Zogos. These people see you every day. They know where you live. They know what kind of car you ride. They know where you work. They know your family. They know your business center. Anyone, if they want to settle score with you, they can only give them a little token and they will go after you. You'll be neutralized. Somebody is asking as to whether who gave them arms. The police are unpaid. And I want to agree with Ponelo. Not all the police officers are bad. Not all of them. This is not a collective guilt. But the bad elements, how do we weed the bad elements from within the police force? It is also a challenge. And this is where it becomes a moral necessity when civil society organizations speak out and say this person is involved in XYZ, the government must come in and act. So, yes, Liberia could degenerate into anarchy because unemployment in the country stands at 76%. Where do you expect these guys to eat? They have families, they have children, they have their girlfriends, they have their parents to cater to. Do
Yeah.
you think where you expect them to get money? Armed robbery. That's why armed robbery is on the increase. Certain time of the night you don't travel because when you travel, they're going to grab you along the way and they take something from you. So yes, if this thing continue over a period of time, imagine you are now working for 3 months. Forget about these guys who are involved in organized crime and extortion.
Right.
Professional people. 5 months you are now working. Do you know the situation? In fact, you will begin to create anything that comes your way, you have to surrender to that. So, my
Thank you.
brother, just to let you know, if we don't address this thing, it's going to be a national problem, and most of us will not live in peace because they will come after us.
Thank you so very much, Patrice. I couldn't agree with you and Ponelo so very much. You know, your last point you just made there, even the people who are employed, what happens when they don't get paid 2, 3 months? They organize a protest, right?
Of course.
So the protest is another form of saying, hey, we're not happy here. We have the potential to do something about our situation. So the man who is now employed, his way of reacting to his situation is to get into crime. So that potential is there, and you are right, and Paulino is right. Government and civil society as well need to step in to do something about this situation because it is very, very serious. And folks, we want to say thank you for sticking with us here and also contributing. You know, your comments were so valuable and added value to the discussion. Let me come back to my panelists here. For every problem we discuss, especially when we have experts, people who have devoted their time to reading, researching, putting thoughts into finding solutions. The reason you put your time in is to find solution to this problem. Now that you have articulated the problem, to each of you, one solution that must stop. If you can make it two, that would be fine, but I need at least one solution that can stop extortion and organized crimes? And what recommendation will you have for civil society, the citizens themselves, and the government? Let's start with you, Pablo.
Thank you so much. So, I would say it has been a fruitful discussion.
Mhm.
The solution which we are looking at here, and also that also sums up this will contribute to the success of this project, extortion and organized crime, is to have first of all is to have uh, the victims themselves come up. That is why we are saying breaking the silence. Because if they just decide to sit down, sometimes we won't even know they're there. We won't even know they exist. We won't even know they're facing extortion. So first of all, they have to come out. They should, look at what we are doing, all the campaigns. They should make use of the opportunity of all the campaigns, all the messages we are sending out. They should come out and, they should be guided into a proper way of dealing with extortion as victims of extortion. And another way is that the law enforcement themselves, they need also to, like I said, to develop a relationship with the community, with the victims, because like Vandalark put it, the main reason the victims fail to come out is this fear of reprisal, I would say, because they're dealing with people of higher authorities than them. Then what follows them next after they come out? They will not live in peace. So the police should also take an initiative, to give in support to the victims, and also assure the communities they should be able to have to be that initiatives where we will collaborate. That is the police and the communities, and talk about ways to end extortion, as well as going out to the other civil societies and the government, the labor laws that is in Malawi, and also the human rights. We are also working with people like those. So all these, we need to come together and develop proper ways, initiative, proper channels where we can support victims of extortion, and also how we could, come in and then for the success of our project. Thank you.
All right. Comrade Patrick, we're talking solutions here. What solutions are available to the people, to the victims, from government end, from the civil society end, to find a resolution to this very serious situation?
So, for me, I think to the law enforcement officer first, the government must prioritize paying our law enforcement officers good salaries. That is the way they will be motivated to curb crime. But if people who are supposed to deter crime are complaining because they have not taken pay, they become automatically become part of the problem. How would they be motivated to go and enforce law when the people they are going to apprehend for committing crime because they are not working, and some of them they were working, they don't have salary, they share the same problems. Police officer is on pay, he's unhappy, he cannot eat. He's going to go arrest another person who is on pay, is not also happy, does not have anything. So you will see the commonality of problems. A police officer will say, but why am I going to arrest these people? So for me, the government needs to first prioritize the issue of paying the police very well. The second thing I will want to recommend is to ensure that academic institutions begin to introduce community service or civic education where we can sensitize some of the young people in our schools. Anthony, it will interest you to note most of these people who are involved in organized crime and extortion, some of them are college students, some of them are college dropouts, some of them are high school dropouts. If we begin to sensitize these people in our schools, where you invite people with expertise in psychosocial counseling to tell these people about the danger of organized crime and how to prevent it, even if there's nothing to do, and what method they can use in order to evolve that, I can certainly tell you that we will not have a lot of young people getting involved in organized crime, like in Liberia we call them zokos, or taking drugs in the ghettos. The last thing I want to recommend is to ensure that the government must create some kind of employment opportunity. Even if it is not full time, it can be on a contractual basis. The more you keep these young people very busy, community services, the very area they use to do criminal activities, send them in the very community for them to ensure that they carry on some form of awareness. Let them be the one to speak out against organized crime and extortion. Tomorrow they will hold themselves accountable that this is what I have been preaching. And as such, I'm not the one supposed to be involved in the commission of this kind of acts. Let them work in the communities. They can clean around their surrounding. They can find any kind of means. Some of them like bringing young people together, giving them basic idea. It can be entrepreneurship. It can be training to just make them wholesome people in society. At the end of the day, they can still have an opportunity to work on at the end of the month $50. Once it's like to give them a concept that hard work pays. $50 a month or $100 a month can do something to them, because most of them, the crimes they commit, some of them go take $25 and they are caught and put ablaze and they are burned alive. Sometimes they go and arm rob, they are not successful, people grab them, they kill them. Some of them will take somebody's cell phone, and in the process they are caught and they are beaten. So why can't we really go into the ghettos, visit these people, use some strategies to give them some form of mental preparation and put them on salary to do certain community message, or community awareness. At the end of the month, they must have a place where they can go and take $50 every 2 weeks, $50. When the month end, they get another $50. In that way, they will have a sense of belonging that at least government is not just looking at me, government is giving me a fund of employment. Over a period of time, you can increase the salary, but leaving them totally unemployed, then it will boil down to the idea of an adult mind is the devil workshop. And
Sure.
once the devil start to work on their minds, we will all become threat in society. So to the civil society organization, we must all begin to amplify the voices. It's not just about talking, it's about making intervention. We are activists. You are an activist. Polino is an activist. I am an activist. We use our skill to develop this concept. We got selected for the Resilient Fellowship. We are working with organizations in Liberia to make sure to address this issue, meeting with police officers. This is one way we can give back to our community. So you don't have to sit down and say it is the government responsibility. It is a collective responsibility, because if you do not act and these people go out of here, you become a target. Your wife becomes a target. Your children become a target. So it is a collective endeavor, and we must all work together, like Polino said, come up with genuine and collective recommendations, give it to national government, and ask them to implement like what we are doing now. So
Thank you.
basically, for me, this is what I see.
Thank you so very much again, folks. In cyberspace, we have had with us here a focus on Liberia, three distinguished resilient fellow of three resilient fellows, and they're being sponsored by the Global Initiative Fund to intervene in our various communities, especially on the issue of extortion and organized crime. We've been discussing the topic, extortion and organized crimes as the new acts of terrorism. And we were able to define, extortion, eight kinds, the danger and impact. We also have been able to look at organized crime definition, example, causes and threats to the community. And we also look into organized crimes and extortion as a new form of terrorism. It's happening in Nigeria because of no job. I have a friend who was telling me, if you are coming from the United States, if those guys heard about you, you're in trouble. They have, grabbed some people and held them hostage, demanding ransom before they could release them, and that's the only way they could or can survive. And then, last but not the least, our panelists just talk about solution on these crimes and also give the necessary recommendation. And we can't thank them enough for doing this for us. Ponelo and Patrick, we will get a concluding statement from each of you, less than a minute each. Now that you have discussed all this, what is that one thing that you want every listener to leave from here with, if they don't remember all of the good things that you have said? What would that be that you're going to leave with us in a minute? Let's start with you, Patrick.
So it is important to emphasize that organized crime and extortion is an act of terrorism. As such, it should be treated with care and caution. It should not be seen as a government responsibility to deter crime. It should be seen as a collective endeavor. Let me just put this in plain terms. If you see people going into wrong behavior and you do nothing about that, and they get accustomed to that, the transition from taking weed or taking drugs to holding arms, and they are unemployed, tomorrow they are coming to your doorstep. If they don't eat, they will terrorize you, and in the process, when you put on any resistance, they will shoot you to death. We are also saying to the government of Liberia, organized crime should not be seen as something the government cannot do anything about that. If the government does not address this issue of organized crime and extortion by identifying the root causes, you already know the root causes. How can you make an intervention in the lives of these young people? Build rehabilitation centers. Take some of them, carry them to rehabilitation centers, rehabilitate them, give them computer skills. When they are fully reintegrated in society, you employ some of them in your ministry and agency to make them understand that they are now new ambassadors. You can even use them to go into the ghettos to serve as ambassadors to discourage their friends from getting involved in organized crime and extortion. If you don't do that, and these guys begin to develop from stage 1 to stage 2, stage 3, when they become very organized, they will not come to the poor people. They will go after the government official because you have the money. You are stealing from them. They will go after you, or sooner or later, they will begin to gun down government officials, and the poor people will go free. We don't want that to happen. We want our public officials to work, make good policy that will benefit us. So this is the only way I can pull it for people to understand, so that this thing does not look like it is not a government thing. Oh, I'm not involved.
Thank
You
you.
know, there's a saying when somebody with a problem, you know, is faced. There's a saying in Liberia that the parent, they say, "Time trap is not for the rat alone." So this thing must be addressed. People who are looking in Nigeria today, Boko Haram is a threat.
All
We
right.
should not overlook this in our country. So thank you very much. I think this is the only way I can put it for people to understand it clearly and see themselves into the picture.
Thank you. And Ponelo, quickly, closing statement. What is one thing that our listeners, the audience, should remember and take from you if they don't remember all the good things you said?
Thank you so much. The one thing that I would like to emphasize is that if you have listened to this program and you're a victim of extortion, you know one victim of extortion, please come out. Do not believe that you cannot just sit there on your problems, on your being victimized and do nothing. Come out. And also, I would like to give this message to the government of Malawi, Liberia, and the society in general that put in strict measures that the perpetrators should not go unpunished because they'll go out there and still keep on committing crimes and then hurting people. So they should be strict measures that the perpetrators should not go unpunished. That is my message. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Well, folks, this is how we will come to the end of the broadcast. But before we leave, I have something for you. Somewhere I read this person wrote, when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything because I was not a Jew. Somewhere I read, the writer continued, they came for the trade unionists. I was not one, so I did not say anything. And then they came for the Christians. And he said, I said nothing because I was not a Christian. And they came for the teachers and the nurses and the doctors. They came for everyone else. I was not those people. So I said nothing. And then they came for me. The writer continues. And there was no one to speak for me. And so was my fate. Extortion and organized crime. We all see these things happening in our community. Why are we not talking about them? Why are policy makers and stakeholders not taking actions? This case of Nigeria, if you have now, put in some time to read, do so. It is the classic example, and that is where I agree with my panelists that extortion and organized crime is an equivalence of terrorism. Nigeria as a country is being terrorized by criminals. And it's not pretty, it's ugly. We don't want that to spread all over Africa. Thank you so very much, Patrick, for coming. Thank you so very much, Ponelo, for coming. We also want to share this with you before we take leave of you. Tomorrow, on the program, The Hour of Politics, we will be discussing the topic ASC Global Charlotte Convention. My guest is the CEO of this platform, Dennis Ja, and I'm the host of the Hour of Politics. He will be making a report. He was invited to Charlotte, North Carolina to the ANC Global Convention. He will be making a report. He will be making analysis, but hey, he's in trouble with me. I will be asking him all the questions. We heard a lot of things, some good, some not good at all. The one I will be making emphasis on will be the ones that are not good, because I don't want that which is not good to go to my Liberia. You don't want to miss it. And that program is tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Well, again, Vandela and Ponelo, we can't thank you enough to our many listeners. We also want to say thank you so very much for being part of the discussion. We don't leave this broadcast without playing our song that says, "We are all Liberians." That song is taking us home. And I'm saying to all of you, bye-bye, and thank you for joining us today.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.